The other day, my friend Gretchen called me to tell me that she had just been interviewed by the local paper. Let me explain. In my video about the Golden Rule, I mentioned that Gretchen sells essential oils. Now, what I neglected to mention was that Gretchen really sells essential oils. In a matter of just a couple of months, she had turned what was essentially a hobby into a source of a six-figure income. Now, Gretchen was super excited about this interview, so I was happy for her. And later that night, I turned on the TV to watch it air. I was quickly pretty disturbed by what I saw. She used every single opportunity to launch into an explanation of how great she was. A question about the challenges that she had faced in business turned into her waxing poetic about how only she possessed the grit necessary to navigate the difficulties of running an essential oil business. A question about some of the innovations that she had made turned into a long speech about how she ranked among the greatest minds of innovation. She ranked among Michelangelo and Gandhi and Elizabeth Holmes. I made a mental note to have a conversation with her later about Elizabeth Holmes and how currently that example doesn't really do the work that she thought it was going to do. So as soon as the interview ended, Gretchen gave me a call, and when I picked up the phone, she was so excited, but I thought that it would be a good idea to be honest with her. So I said, Gretchen, I really care about you. I'm your friend, and as a friend, I just really need to say that I think that you came across as a little bit too arrogant in this interview. You're a little bit too boastful. There were a lot of wonderful things about it. I love how confident you are, and your enthusiasm for essential oils really came through, so that's wonderful. But next time, I think it'd be worthwhile to be a little bit less boastful. So she got quiet, and then she thought to herself, and she said, okay, yeah, I think you're right. Next time, I'll be less boastful. So the next day, I got a text from Gretchen, and she said, hey, I had another interview, I thought of what you said, and in this new one, I was a lot less boastful. Now check it out, let me know what you think. So later that night, I turned on the TV, I got excited, and I figured I would sit here and watch the interview. And it was as if there was a whole new Gretchen this time. Instead of talking about how great she was, she used every single question as an opportunity to undermine her own accomplishments. So when asked about her ingenuity, she said, oh, anybody with half a brain cell and a pulse could have done what I did. When asked about the challenges of running a business in a competitive marketplace, she just said, any difficulties I faced was just the symptoms of an unserious and unintelligent mind rather than obstacles that come up in business. Basically, she would replace somebody who was insufferable in their boastfulness with somebody who was insufferable in their false modesty. Now, in that story, something went wrong. But the tools that we've offered so far in our discussion about ethical theories aren't really that useful for diagnosing what that was. So if we think about Kantian deontology, she wasn't really violating this, the formula of humanity version of the categorical imperative. She wasn't using anybody merely as a means. So that's not that helpful for identifying what went wrong. In utilitarianism, we're talking about trying to maximize overall net utility, but it's unclear to me how to associate utilities or, well-being with any of the actions that she performed. When it comes to the Golden Rule, I guess we could ask, would Gretchen object to somebody else showing false modesty or boastfulness in front of her? But that doesn't really seem to get at the heart of what has gone wrong. The bigger issue has to do with Gretchen's character. In particular, we are critical of her habits of feeling and behaving. Now, the ancient Greek philosopher Aristotle wrote that virtues are habits of feeling and behaving appropriately. And he also said that virtues exist as intermediate points between vices of excess and deficiency. For every sphere of feeling and acting, we can identify a vice of excess, a vice of deficiency, and a virtuous mean that lies in the middle. So all of that was super abstract. So what I'm going to do now is think back to the story of Gretchen in order to explain what this means. In interviews, we are asked to tell the truth about our accomplishments. And there's two obvious ways that can go wrong. One way it can go wrong is if we are excessive in boasting about our accomplishments. Another way that it can go wrong is if we are deficient in not giving enough credit where credit is due. In the first interview, Gretchen failed by being too boastful. She was excessive. She showed the vice of excess. In the second interview, Gretchen failed by being falsely modest. She was deficient. She showed the vice of deficiency. And the goal is to find this virtuous mean that lies in the middle between those two vices. So I'm going to quote Aristotle now. In Book 4 of the Nicomachean Ethics, Aristotle puts the point as follows. The boastful man, then, is thought to be apt to claim the things that bring glory when he has not got them, or to claim more of them than he has. And the mock-modest man, on the other hand, to disclaim what he has or belittle it, while the man who observes the mean is one who calls a thing by its own name, being truthful both in life and in word, owning to what he has, and neither more nor less. It's useful to make an inventory of your own life and assess ways that you are being vicious rather than virtuous. And according to Aristotle, when you find that you're being less than virtuous in a particular sphere of feeling and acting, you can make a positive change. You can improve your life in a good direction by changing your habits. So, for example, if you'd like to make some new friends, but you're feeling afraid because you're nervous about meeting new people, one change you can make is that you can go out and you can try to talk to at least one new person a day until that becomes a habit. But just make sure not to go too far in the direction of the excess of courage by becoming excessively rash, by becoming the sort of person who rushes headfirst into danger without first deciding whether that's actually a good idea.